Hello, hello. We have quite an audience today, and I think I know why. Because we all want to grow our freelance network. And I think, well, good question. Who doesn't want to grow a business? You're not building a business to make it shrink, right? And that's exactly why you're here today, and that's why we have a great speaker who's going to introduce us to new strategies, how to do it right these days, because I think that one of the major social media platforms in our heads is still LinkedIn. But is LinkedIn sufficient? He's going to say no, and that's a super spoiler. I'd love to welcome to the stage Bertrand Rothen, freelance product manager, product owner, and consultant. Forget LinkedIn, other ways how to grow your freelance network and business. Welcome.
All right, is this thing on? Yeah, you can hear me. All right, great. Thanks very much, Nadia, for the cordial introduction. And thanks, of course, to all of you for showing up to listen to me rant about LinkedIn for a while. And of course, I'd love to thank the organizers of the Freelance Unlocked conference for giving me this airtime and putting together this great conference. So thanks very much. So fun fact, my presentation is going to be called a little bit different, but when I submitted it, but this is what we landed on. So yeah, the title is Forget LinkedIn. All right, so just a quick who's this guy, what is he going to talk about, and why should I even listen? I guess the who, Nadia kind of already got out of the way. I just wanted to give you this slide. Maybe if you wanted to use this QR code to connect with me on LinkedIn. I know, it's ironic, right? But still, you can go ahead and do it. And also, basically just a visual summary of what Nadia said. And what am I talking about? I think LinkedIn is pretty overrated and is mostly trash. I mean, I put mostly there to emphasize that it's not all trash. I'll get into all of it in a second. But of course, also, I'd like to run through a couple of things I feel like you could be doing with your time instead that are probably going to serve you better as freelancers, and especially people who work in a consultancy or interim management, or just like I said, regular freelancing in that sense. Just before get into it, I just wanted to let you know, I'm not a professional LinkedIn hater, although I would love to be, but unfortunately I don't have the credentials yet, but I'm not here to sell you a course or anything. This is not my business. My business is product management. I've been freelancing for 6 years, and I have learned a lot of people who have learned a lot from people who have been in the business longer than I have. And I feel like I just share my observations, and I hope that it's useful to you all. So that is why I'm here, basically. So first of all, just for completeness, I feel like I have to talk about the good side of LinkedIn, where, just bear with me. I'm going to get into the bashing in just a second. Don't worry, it's going to come. But also just to be fair, I would call it the Rolodex side of LinkedIn, where LinkedIn is definitely, of course, the biggest global repository of professional profiles and information about professionals that's out there, and that, of course, bears inherent value. LinkedIn knows this, of course, and this is also connected to the DEM, or the direct messaging part of it, where LinkedIn, of course, also sometimes asks you to pay for sending a certain amount of messages to a certain amount of people, because this can, of course, be pretty valuable. I know that the further apart you are from someone, the less successful the cold messaging, which is the new version of cold calling, is going to be. However, there are a couple of methods, sophisticated methods of using this. For instance, in the book, The Freelance Manifesto, I'm going to put the details at the end if you're interested. The author outlines this pretty well. And there's also a lot of people also at the conference who are very good at this and can give you a lot of pointers about that. And then, of course, also LinkedIn is probably, because it's connected to every ATS on the planet, it has the probably biggest repository of who is looking for what kind of talent out there in the world. There's definitely a dark side to that one as well, but I'm not going to get into that too much because this conference is not called Employment Unlocked, am I right? So yeah, that's mostly for employees. Anyway, so this is basically my pitch to you. These are 4 angles from which I would just claim that spending, especially, and this is, again, I said that the Rolodex part is pretty useful, but then there's I would call it the water cooler part, or the content part, whatever. It's the feed, the content. That is just, it's pretty, mostly a waste of time, mostly pretty useless, pretty bad, and it's also just gotten pretty bad. Main reason, number one reason, is LinkedIn is just cringe. I mean, come on, people. It's just really, really, really cringy content-wise. And I feel like such an old person standing here and saying, like, it didn't used to be this way. It used to be better. It just got worse, I'm telling you. But you have to believe me, because I'm old. But so basically, I want to kind of outline this decline to you a little bit and just kind of give you also a little bit of a perspective where we're headed, just to illustrate, just to drive my point home. And I feel like there is, of course, one thing that changed this dramatically, where I started freelancing just before COVID, like in, I think it was mid-2019. And at that time, people were not that active on LinkedIn. I mean, it was mostly, I would say mundane posts, because the inherent wealth of connections in a business context, professional networking and everything. This was all mostly in real life stuff. So conferences, expos, meetups. People also went to the office and just networked there as well. So there was just not this necessity. But of course, LinkedIn saw this as a problem because they were hitting sort of, you can kind of see this here, they were kind of starting to plateau and kind of reach the end of where they were going with this. So they needed some kind of cataclysmic event that would just, allow them to reach a whole new dimension of revenue. As you can see, of course, because this effect, right, it only takes effect a little bit later. So from 2021 on, you can just see the revenue just shooting into entirely different spheres here. And that's because you all remember, of course, everyone moved online. There was no meetups or no conferences. Everything was virtual. And so a lot of people just had to do acquisition and networking online. And so, of course, a lot of people would take to LinkedIn and would crowd LinkedIn with an insane amount of content and trying to get engagement and stuff. And I would say in terms of sophistication, the content algorithm was probably at that time around early 2010s Facebook, so it was just woefully underprepared. So it started with stuff like this, right, where it's just LinkedIn rewards heavily if you post something and people comment on it. This will be syndicated out to the commenters network. So this is how you reach virality. Just get a lot of comments. And so you would have these postings where people are just trying to get comments at any cost. And I'm just going to say, unless you have a brain teaser business, this is not going to relate. This is not going to convert into business for you at all. So I didn't really get what people, the engagement numbers are nice to look at, but there's no real value behind this. Then there was this whole thing that Lorcan Rich Kelly dubbed broetry, where people figured out if you post in a certain format, then this would be appealing to people. This would be something that people would speed read and then engage with and stuff. You've probably all seen this, and this was kind of the nascence of the LinkedIn bro, the Gary V super fan type, embrace the struggle, embrace the hustle, all that kind of stuff. Very weird era. Then there was this thing that I call, this reoccurs in all kinds of shapes and forms, where peddling popular opinions, if you just kind of, if you search for boss versus leader LinkedIn, there's so much visual content that is basically a who else hates Monday type of thing, where, people say bosses are bad because bosses tell you what to do. We don't like that. But leaders inspire you, and that's great, and stuff like that. But I still have to deconstruct properly why people engage with this so much. But I think it's probably a mix of a lot of things where the baseline is probably that people love engaging, with things that they agree with. They also love engaging with things that they disagree with, and that's actually, on Facebook at least, that kind of content, incendiary content, works much better than, let's say, agreeable content. But on LinkedIn, of course, people think it reinforces their brand or their likability if they post stuff that people just agree with. At the end of the day, this is just a common opinion. No one's going to give you specifically, uniquely business because of this. Business thirst trapping. As Sean Kernan actually put this pretty well, he's a professional author, he said number one rule on social media, on every social media platform, is be hot. And so eventually LinkedIn was going to figure out that if you post good-looking people, it doesn't have to be even yourself, it's just someone who looks good, and then you get engagement. And then, I mean, of course, in this example, this picture is obviously sort of inappropriate in the business context, but then some guy writes here, like, wonderful, incredibly sexy, would you give me a date? I mean, which is, of course, just completely inappropriate. And so this took a pretty bad turn where, I mean, there's even a hashtag, LinkedIn is not a dating site, where a lot of women have collected instances of, inappropriate advances by, mostly men, of course, via LinkedIn, and sometimes even leveraging their business credentials to try and coerce women into favors of any kind. So that's pretty bad. Then, as Facebook, as we all know, is still dying its slow but inevitable death, people would start posting, I would say, personal opinion, social political content on LinkedIn, where this one is like anti-vax, pro-gun, I hope he'll grow up to be a toxic male and stuff like that. And I mean, I understand there's a case for exchanging personal views within a professional context, but this is not it. All of this absurdity was bound to just at some point entail that people would start making fun of it, right? Unfortunately, the humor around this is also not that funny, and also can take a pretty dark turn. So at some point when I was researching this, I just thought to myself, oh, is it actually more cringe now to make fun of LinkedIn than LinkedIn itself? I can assure you no, but still, it's coming close, unfortunately. Then there's stuff like this, where this guy says, imagine sharing the traumatizing story of your wife's suicide attempt with an HR rep, only to turn around and see the rep has posted the story to LinkedIn as inspirational clickbait. And this story is crazy, right? But to me, the cherry on top is actually that this guy posted about it. So he used this for his own reach on Twitter, to be fair, but still. Notice I haven't said anything about AI yet. I feel like I don't have to even say anything. I feel like you all know where I'm getting at with this, right? I mean, when this started, like about 1 or 2 years ago, if you take all this stuff that just got progressively worse and just throw it in a blender and have it output in certain mangled pieces, then what are you going to get? It's not going to be better. It's the other direction. It started with all these weird, fever dreamish images that have weird business elements in it and a lot of typos and jumbled letters. And I know ChatGPT has gotten better at this, but it doesn't change the core premise. Because, and I'm very sorry, I forgot to put the source here, but you can Google this for sure. But also, this is old. This is actually, I think this is a year old. A year ago, we already crossed the threshold where more content posted on LinkedIn is generated by or with the help of AI than isn't. And you can guess in which direction this has been heading in the last couple of months. If you throw up your feed and just look at it, you're going to notice. You know stuff like this, where it's just, people do the Studio Ghibli thing, and then this thing, right? You've all seen that. I understand, but it's an old marketing principle. People love, your name. Just that's every souvenir shop owner knows this trick, and that's why the selfie camera exists. That's why Apple and the other companies put so much money into improving the selfie camera on their phones. People love pictures of themselves, so also they love pictures of themselves as a fake action figure, of course. But how does this relate to you getting clients, getting business, being successful? Unless you are an action figure designer, which, how many of you are action figure designers? Thought so. Sorry. Anyway, what I'm getting at is LinkedIn is not built for freelancers also. And apart from the obvious absence of tools for freelancers on LinkedIn, I feel like it's pretty obvious in the way LinkedIn makes money, which is primarily talent solutions, which is basically for enterprise clients a way for them to find talent, hire talent, and then also retain talent by upskilling them through LinkedIn Learning. And this is more than 50% of the revenue. Also notice that this has nothing to do with content. The next one does. Marketing solutions is, of course, this is ads, basically, just paid content. So, of course, LinkedIn needs the content space to seem relevant for them to be able to make money on it on ads. And then there's the premium subscriptions, which, I'm guessing most of us in the room have. And as you can probably tell, none of this is geared towards freelancers. And this is just basically because LinkedIn is obviously, as we saw previously, really successful in serving enterprise clients, which mostly look for employees. that actually also gives platforms like Freelancer Map and 9am and Code Control and Uplink, and also internationally like Upwork and Fiverr a reason to exist. Then the next point, when I say a big waste of time, I mean you can or will invest a lot of time and really not get a lot of return. I feel like Alan Weiss said this best in $1 Million Consulting, where he said, there's too many people giving too much advice about the internet that's irrelevant to consultants, and it only creates a market for the people giving you lousy advice about the internet. So what this means is LinkedIn, as the content space becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy where, there are people, of course, that have a stake other than LinkedIn, like social sellers, LinkedIn experts, LinkedIn influencers, all those people. They need everyone to think that LinkedIn content, the content space is important. But is it really to you? For me, I feel like I can verifiably say no. In 6 years, this is the amount of contact that I had initiated through LinkedIn that's resulted in business for me, and nothing else. I mean, sometimes LinkedIn was a component of the process, of course, but that people reached out through LinkedIn and nothing else to me, and then I ended up being able to convert that into business. That was in 2 cases, actually. So you could say, oh, you just suck at it. And the thing is, maybe I do, but then also I haven't heard anything wildly different from my peers on this. But also you could say, oh, but the return on invest could still be good because there's a lot of volume in consulting contracts, but I can assure you the amount of time I spend on LinkedIn, not a good return. Now, before I go into what I think you should be doing, I just want to take a quick peek at what I call the dark side of LinkedIn, the security perspective of it. So as I see it, LinkedIn is kind of OSINT heaven and hell. And if you're not fluent in security acronyms, OSINT stands for Open Source Intelligence. It basically means all the information you can publicly get on a person or a thing or whatever that you can scrape from the internet. You don't have to break into anyone's place in order to find this stuff out. And while, of course, I told you, LinkedIn has a lot of information and spreads it to a lot of places, and this can be used in non-malicious ways, of course, such as people finding you and being impressed with your experience and wanting to give you money, but, of course, this can also be misused. This can definitely be used maliciously. So there's this one example, this is a bit older, where a lady shared a picture with her daughter saying she got a new job, and then she gets this comment from another person saying, I'm not part of your network, I saw this post in my feed, and from it I got your daughter's age, her name, your city, and the fact that she's working in a particular industry, just saying this information is getting out to a broader network of people. I told you, right, that especially with the comments, it goes all kinds of places. And you've all seen it, right? You see this, someone has liked or someone has commented on, and you're just like, who is this person? I don't know that person, but it's a second or maybe even third-hand connection. This is not a vague threat. Someone actually tried to phish a client of mine, tried to get banking details for an invoice rerouted, so basically steal the money that the client owed me. They wrote this. I mean, if you know German, you can tell that this is, pretty bad German. This is obviously auto-translated. But they sent this to someone who doesn't speak German, and also someone in the C-level. So C-levels are busy. They forward this to someone from their team. And then that person from the team also didn't speak German. And then that person was ready to email Mia Khalifa something, whatever, with instructions on how to do this. But fortunately, Apple obviously has advanced scanning and fraud detection, so they noticed that this email was used for fraudulent activity, and they shut it down, so the email didn't go through. This is really scary, honestly, because, I mean, how would you feel if you basically got secondhand wind of someone trying to just, reroute your invoice payment? But also, this email footer here, someone just copied and pasted this off of LinkedIn. So that was the day that I stopped sharing detailed information on what clients I worked for at that very moment and in what function, because of this. While we're on the whole impersonation thing, this is actually probably a bit of a formatting thing. I did this in Keynote, so it was not supposed to say impersonatio, but anyway. I'm sorry. Did you know you can become the CEO of OpenAI, or of Tesla, or of Apple, or of Google, or in this case, even of LinkedIn, by just putting it on your profile? No one's going to stop you. You can just do it. So this guy, he's a comedian. He actually did it. Yeah, obviously it's a bit older. I think this was like 8 years ago or something. But still, it took a year until someone from the content team reached out to him and asked him, not what the hell are you doing, but they actually asked him, like, can you please upload some proof that you are actually our boss? So this is nuts, right? This guy also did a TED Talk about it. I highly recommend it. It's pretty funny. But this, of course, can also take, quite a bit of a darker turn. Like, for instance, as I said, right, there's lots of impersonation happening. I've heard of developers who are trying to try to get scammed while they're doing a code challenge that people send them. A coding environment that is, laden with malware and stuff like that. And of course, fake LinkedIn profiles will always be part of this shtick, whatever someone's doing. Even this goes as far as North Korean spies, even. So LinkedIn is trying to combat this, of course, but obviously they're not doing that stellar of a job. So now that you're maybe thinking, like, oh yeah, that's not going into a good place. Like, this is only going to be a matter of time until this is going to be a bunch of AI agents and LLMs talking to each other. Why should I invest in this? I'm saying, there's of course a case for, I'm not saying tone it down to 0%. I'm saying tone it down to 20% if you're posting a lot. You can still reach a couple of people, but it's really not the same of what you would think. There are other ways that you can definitely invest your time much better. And I feel like the headline for me here is this quote by Chesky, who's a co-founder of Airbnb, who said, in the early days, obviously, because now they're scaled to a global company, he said, it's better to have 100 people love you than 1 million people that sort of like you. And that's the approach that they use, and I think that's also how they won. Because you might think that the hospitality market is just a couple of few big players. But there are a lot of small companies, and Airbnb used to be one of these companies. And they managed, by just focusing on quality only, that they would set the stage for them to be able to scale. And I feel like that's the approach you should take. And of course, the emphasis here is on people, right? So I'm really sorry. Some of this advice is going to feel more like a nagging reminder, or also contextually of a lot of stuff that other people are saying at the conference. But that doesn't mean it holds value. Like, honestly, this is what I got the most business out of was, for instance, going to events. That's, of course, halfway done for you. But make sure that you try to talk and meet at least 5 new people at this conference. You're going to see it's going to have value. Even if you just meet someone you get along with well, or someone that you just stay connected with, and something might happen at any time. I had some guy who I worked in the same organization with. He contacted me 8 years later, just out of nothing. He said, like, oh, hey, you do freelancing now, right? I work in recruiting now, and I need a freelancer. And that was business for me. It's pretty good business as well. So, you never know when things will come back your way. When I say be part of communities, I don't mean sign up to Uplink and create a profile and then wait for the jobs, and then lurk around for that and then otherwise don't, do anything. I mean, like, really be part of it. Like, try to help people. Try to also solicit help if you feel like someone can be of service to you, and try to meet these people, try to keep up with them. It'll pay dividends, because a lot of these people, some of the people in this room might be your competitors, but they also can be your allies. So, that's what I like about coming to Freelance Unlocked, because I always see a lot of people that I know and that I love seeing again. And I feel like I want to have this effect every year, hoping that the conference is going to be reiterated next year, that there's going to be more people that I'm going to meet here that I know well and I'm happy to see again. So it's really about you putting in the effort, being part of the community. It'll give back to you. Not everyone needs to produce content. And that's also fine, right? If we all would produce content, like, who would consume it? AI? Maybe. But, like, what's the point of that? Honestly. But if you feel like you have a knack for content, then you can also, of course, start your own blog or newsletter. We've heard this in other presentations today, that this is actually a very underutilized tool. And even if you don't want to build your own network, you can also use someone else's. You can look for other networks or newsletters or blogs in your niche space and try to create guest content for them. That usually works out really well in your favor. The numbers are not as impressive, but the value is just much higher. This is a big and annoying one, but emphasis on big. This is really valuable if you get people to actually write you a sincere recommendation. Ironically, the best way to do this is LinkedIn, because then you have the social proof of someone, using their profile to recommend you, and people can verify this, as opposed to, I could just take a picture of someone and just write a nice quote about myself, put it on my website, it could be fake, no one would know. But other people, of course, also recognize that it's easy to fake. So doing this on LinkedIn is actually great. I've neglected this for far too long, but I'm going to be doing this now for every client that I work with. I'm going to try to get at least 3 recommendations from them, and I would highly recommend that you do too. When it comes to doing things, I also just doing things regularly and in certain quantities, I would definitely recommend that you try to meet 2 new prospects every week. And I don't mean like it has to be in person. It can also be on the phone. This can be a recruiter that you've seen that they post interesting projects, and you're just like, I should know that person to just be top of mind the next time they have something interesting. Try to set up a call with them, or try to meet people that you would usually work in a team with, invite them out to lunch or for coffee or something. Try to do this twice a week, of course, especially if you're actually currently looking for new clients. And just try to keep the pace, because at some point this is gonna materialize. And if you just keep this up, you're going to have just more valuable connections than if you just hang out on LinkedIn all day and just or if you configure an AI to auto comment under everything. Interesting perspective. I would like to learn more, or something like I don't know, something like that. And my last kind of appeal to you, if you do still want to be active on LinkedIn, which is fine. Again, it's more about the quantity and your expectations. But I would implore you to not focus on engagement, not focus on the numbers. Really try to share something that's uniquely you, that unique perspective that you bring, and try to also approach it that way. You're not going to get the same engagement if you copy and paste some hype topic or whatever. But the bottom line here is, and I say this from experience, no one's going to inbox you saying like, hey, I saw your post on why vibe coding is great, or why vibe coding is risky, or why vibe coding is great and risky, and I want to give you a lot of money because of that. No one's going to do that, honestly. But if you build proper connections, you're going to be the first one that people call. And with that, I'd like to thank you very much for hearing me out.